Right, I've got four positions in this video demonstrating places where the knight is just sort of dominant over the bishop, and in particular the power of the fork, where the bishop is just, well, you're about to see it, well and truly forked. The first one's from a game. This is a game from 1988. It's black to play. Pause the video and decide what you'll do. Have a real long think about it. Because there's kind of a move you want to play, and it looks like you can't because of something, but just try and look that one move further and make it work. Who's one of the modern day GMs that basically says, I want to play this, but I can't because make it work. Find a way to make it work. And the other three positions that I've got are studies, and they're fantastic. They're absolutely fantastic. The bare minimum you'll get out of them is enjoyment. You will be astonishingly impressed by at least one of them. I think I was impressed by all three of them there, and they're good fun, and we can get back into the debate about, oh yeah, but it's just a study, it wouldn't happen in a game. It's like, well, yes, possibly, but are there transferable skills and so on. So yeah, the bare minimum you'll get out of it is good fun, and I still claim that the thinking process and being aware of the power of the pieces, in this case a knight, is a super useful transferable skill. And one day I'll prove it by by being a good chess player and doing some fantastic stuff with my knights. Anyway, this position, I've been waffling on for long enough for you to have had time to pause the video. The first move you want to play is knight c3. Okay? And if you were sort of, in a way, correctly thinking, thinking's correct in chess, isn't it? We should be always thinking. But if you were correctly thinking, oh yeah, I can't play that because of a3. a3 is absolutely a move you should be thinking about when you play knight c3, undermining the defense of that knight that you've just stuck on c3. And it could be just a disaster, basically. But you needed this little follow-up. How about that? Knight e2. Brilliant. That knight can't be touched because, well, the a-pawn queens. And white's got to deal with this. And the bishop is forked. The bishop is well and truly forked. So yeah, brilliant first move, knight c3, and the thing about it that makes it so good is that white can't play a3. That's all right, I don't want to play a3. Like, I think you do. Your a-pawn's being attacked. So in the game, all white could do was bishop f3. It's not over. It's nowhere near over. Black still has to play a lot of careful moves, but the knight is clearly dominating the bishop, in the sense, I suppose these pawns are fixed on white squares. This one not so much. I guess that's something that black has to watch out for, but they've got a pass pawn on b4 now. So bishop back to d1 to put a halt to that. You can see that the pawn was stopping the king's route in. I suppose there was king c2 as well. I'm sorry, king c2, the knight can come back to c3. So bishop to d1 was played in the game. b3, another little tactic. That pawn can't be touched. Okay, so white plays bishop to d1 to stop b3, and the pawn ending's just 1. Okay, black gets the opposition, crucially, on the 3rd and the 5th rank, and yeah, that's gone. Going to outflank, win this pawn. It's completely gone. So b3, that pawn can't be touched. Okay. King d2. Notice that black has now completely formed a barrier. This is about knight forks, but there it is again. There's that barrier for stopping white getting into defend. b2, push the pawn again. Okay. Bishop c2. What would you play if white played king c2? Bosh. Wow. So what a beautiful move, b2, seeing that white can't play king c2. But they have to stop b1 equals queen, so bishop c2. What's that? There's 3 different tactics now, where involving the knight or the knight fork or the knight doing something clever, that meant that white couldn't play the positionally desirable move, and all of a sudden they're not even allowed to get their king close to that b pawn, so the bishop had to come to c2. Knight b4, bishop back to b1, and the knight is just controlling with its pawn as well. This pawn fixed on a white square. The bishop has no squares, and at any given time, you know, being careful, the pawn ending is almost certainly won for black. And you think, well, this is just over now, isn't it? It's just trivial. We'll just bring the king in and it's done. And indeed, the top 5 engine moves, the worst one is -6.3. But pause the video, have a think about what your next move would be, because there is time to mess this up. Knights don't triangulate. So white can hold this if black now rushes in with king b5. King c3, knight back to c6, and white can just play bishop a2, knight e7, king b3. There's just no way in for black. That's a draw. Very slight edge. The engine's giving -0.2. If back in this position, black tried to come in with the king a4, we can take the b pawn. And yeah, I mean, nothing's coming into c4 anymore. So back here, appreciating that sort of, it's almost like an opposition thing going on. You want the position you had, but you want that with white to move. And at the moment, the white bishop can't move. The white king can't come to here or here because they're guarded by the knight. So the only square they can go to, really, other than just disappearing and letting you into b5 anyway, is to come to c3. So you just play a waiting move, and then when the king comes to c3, you get that position that you want with white to move. King b3. I mean, if the pawn's taken, stupid system. So I don't know if anyone's had this problem on Lichess. You sort of, when you've got variations, you go to click the move and it disappears up the screen, so you're sort of following it with your mouse. It's extremely irritating. So king takes b2, and yeah, the king's into c4. You can see that's just completely over. So king b3, we're just desperately trying to keep the white king out of c4. Knight back to c6, king c3, king a4, and that's why you needed to sort of have the opposition, as it were. White is just completely stuffed. If they try king takes b2, which is what happened in the game, sorry. If they try, silly scrolling thing again, bishop a2, king a3, it's gone. Okay, that bishop would have to come back to b1, and then you can come in with the knight, and you're just slowly going to make progress. White's just in a complete zugzwang. Yeah, I think the king would have to come back to d2 here, king b3, the black king's coming in. And where had we got to in the game? White just went for it with king takes b2, knight into b4. By the way, that was sort of the icing on the cake. Okay, if you take the d pawn here, it goes back to being drawn again. Bishop a2, your d5 pawn's gone. White can hold that. But yeah, knight b4. White's virtually got no moves. King c3, king a3. How about that for knight dominates the bishop? Pretty cool game, that one. But all those tactics at the start to marvel at. Right, this next one is a study by Reti from 1922. It is absolutely amazing. It's incredible study. I've seen it a couple of times and failed to get it the second time because I'd forgotten it, even though I found it incredible the first time I saw it. It's also in, if I can find the book, it also features in that book, Jan Timman's 100 Endgame Studies You Must Know. Although I don't think you must know them. I think they're just very entertaining. I don't think you must know any of them particularly, but they're entertaining. Yeah, white to play. What would you do? So white plays knight d4 check. Keeping the black king out of b5 and forcing the black king to do something. I mean, other sort of natural moves that suggest themselves are things like knight b4, king b5, and then a6. But black can just play king b6, and we're going to hit the knight next go with the bishop, which is multitasking as a blocker on this as well. And it's just, you're not going to win that. Okay. So knight d4 check. But black's got the same idea. Black can just think, well, I'll come and attack your knight, and then you move your knight, and king c5 and then b5. You've had it, basically. Why is this a study? What's going on? King c5. What can you do? What can you do as white? Pause the video and see if you can find white's next move. I mean, a bit of lateral thinking in positions that are studies. This H pawn just sort of seems to be a bit irrelevant in a way. Like, what's he doing in the board? Why is Reti on the board? Sorry, why has Reti put it in this study? And why is the F pawn here and not here? And you, obviously we don't play games of chess like that, but it's still, in my view, helpful thinking. If this knight is taken, the A pawn queens. So one of the reason Reti put this F pawn here is it's guarding the E3 square. So this unfortunately placed bishop on H6 has no way to stop that A pawn. Okay, so you don't have to move your knight, but you've got to move your king if you're not going to move your knight, because A6 would clearly be bet by king B6, and we're back to it. It's an easy draw. If you move the F pawn, I mean, black either takes it if you put it on F4 or brings the bishop to E3, attacks your knight. And it's just clearly drawn. So it's got to be a king move. And then that's like, that's why the pawn's on H2, because you can't just move your king anywhere. Now, if you take the pawn, bishop F4 check. And then the king could take the knight next go. And again, that's easily drawn. So we've got to move the king if we want a waiting move, and it's got to be to a square that stops H1 equals queen losing the game. Really? King H1. Wow. In that book, by the way, I think Jan Timman said that he saw it on a T-shirt or a mug or something. It was sort of being immortalised on a poster somewhere or something like that. It was that impressive a study position. You think, all right, very clever. Black can't take the knight, but just move their king somewhere else. Just move the king somewhere else. It's like, careful. Where are you going to move your king? Where's it going? It can't come forward because this A pawn's queening. The only square that's not guarded going back is this one. You lose your bishop and the game. And king d5, we can just push the A pawn, and there's no way for the king to get back because the c6 square is guarded. All right, move the bishop. Hundreds of squares on the board. Not hundreds, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 squares. 7 squares. One of those squares will be all right. Just find the safe square for the bishop, and do that. And this is king H1, clever, but not really that clever, is it? We're just going to move our bishop. Right, where should we put our bishop? Well, I can't go there because of knight e6 check. 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 Can't go there because the pawn guards it. Okay, it'll have to be one of these two down there. Oh, I can't go there because of knight b3 check. Can't go there because of knight b3 check. Oh. Absolutely incredible. What an astonishing move. King h1. And on this open board, the bishop is well and truly forked. Realising all of that, by the way, back at move 1, black would see that, of course. Of course they would. I saw that. No chance. King b7, king takes h2, king a6, knight b3, and it's just not as effective now. Okay, so if you, that black sort of lost a bit of time rather than hassling this knight from these squares attacking the pawn at the same time. We've got the knight back to b3, defending the pawn from behind. And yeah, we can see the engines reckons plus 34. King in f4. There it goes. There's king b4. So now the bishop's back in time to guard the a7 square, but by the time the knight's gone, we got the pants. And bishops just can't cope with the pants. They just can't cope with the pants. There it is. Next, this is a study from 1931. Also brilliant. I sort of nearly got this one and then didn't. I had the right idea, and this is also brilliant. And even when I had the right idea, by the way, and I'd seen the solution in the book, I showed it to Alex, and he came, and then he couldn't get it either. And then I showed him how to do it. I showed him what the solution was, but he came up with a defence I hadn't even considered, and neither had the book, or rather the book had, and I hadn't read it. And then I didn't know what to do against that either. so when I say I nearly got this, what I mean is I just hopelessly failed at it from beginning to end. Pause the video, white to play. What would you do? It's brilliant, this. Absolutely brilliant. So what you do is you come in and you check the king. King comes across to c7's. King c7's a good first move, whatever black plays next. Okay, and then you stop the bishop getting out. So you stop the black bishop getting out. You think, well, yeah, very clever, but the king's just going to come across and attack your knight. And in fact, you've lost your knight, silly. Yeah, your knight can't get out there. You trapped. You never mind trapping the bishop. You trapped your own knight. What did you do that for? So, well, I did it for this. All right, you lost your knight. Yeah, okay, lost my knight. And black's like, oh, oh, I've lost my bishop and I've lost the game. Incredible, absolutely incredible. Black has an extra bishop, and there's nothing we can do to stop it just getting lost. And he can't even get to the e6 square before white attacks this pawn in the sort of the classic mine square setup. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Except black doesn't have to come and get your knight. Black could kind of make a run for keeping your king out and getting the pawn. Okay. And now white has only one winning move. So you think, well, I'll come forward. A sort of a natural move by hand is to play something like king f4, just to keep the black king out for now, and then I'll go this way in a minute. But actually, you just messed it up, because the e5 square and the g5 squares are sort of corresponding mined squares. I mean, they basically do correspond. So black can now just wait around, and there's just nothing that white can do. Whenever the white king moves to g5, the black king moves to e5. I mean, try the different possibilities, but there's no way to get your king up the king side now without stepping to g5 at a point when black can step to e5. But once you realise that they're corresponding squares, it's fairly obvious what you need to do. King g4, black's like, oh, I'm not coming to the mine square, okay, because I know that if king e5, king g5, I have to step away and it is done. So instead, after king g4, I'm going to play king d5. And you say, well, I'm not going to g5, I'm going to go to h5. Also, I guess, corresponding squares. Yeah, and when the king comes to e5, king g5, it transposes, king d5, king h7, hits, and then there's the classic mined square situation, Although the white knight's guarding e6. I mean, to be honest, we can just sort of manoeuvre the knight around now. If the bishop tries to escape straight away, we can take it with the knight. And any king move, I suppose king f5 is a sensible thing to do. Oh yes, we can play knight d7. Okay, so we knight d7, defend the pawn and then take the bishop. Or if black goes to d6, then we don't need to worry about defending the f6 pawn because black's not attacking it. So yeah, in fact that's actually the next team, was king f7, knight f5, knight d7, king f5, sorry, knight d7. So yeah, absolutely brilliant. Really enjoyed that one. And one more, also very entertaining. I enjoyed going through this one. Spent ages on it, nearly got it, and then had to look at the solutions. White to play. This is a 1947 study. What would you do? So knight c6 is the first move, and black's got a couple of choices here. King b7 or king a8. They're sort of the obvious moves. If king a8, then black's got a problem. B takes a7, and now black's bishop has no moves. So the king has to come back to b7, but now we can deliver this check, and the bishop is trapped. If you remember knight and pawn versus bishop, one of the sort of the critical points is where there are just 4 squares on the shorter diagonal stopping that pawn's advance, critical advance or promotion. That's sort of the biting point of when knight and pawn versus bishop becomes worth studying. Otherwise, it's usually just trivially won or trivially drawn. Yeah, that was sort of the critical biting point, really, was 4 or fewer squares. Anyway, one of the reason I say this is that this is the same idea. This is just one of the ways of controlling those 4 squares. In this case, the black bishop has 4 squares because there's a pawn on d4. Almost like this position's been deliberately constructed for that to be a feature. Back in 1947 when it was, as a study. So that's the trick that white's got. The bishop is trapped, and yeah, black hasn't got time to come and get this d pawn. You've easily got time there. You need to win the bishop and get your king to e4. It's obviously e4, sorry, and completely won. So in the original position, knight c6 check, king b7 is the move, so that when b takes a7, king a8. And now knights don't triangulate, which means that the plan of a check and then to f7, it can't really be forced very easily. So what do? I mean, you're stopping the bishop getting out at the moment. You're guarding the squares. If the bishop gets out, you stand no chance of winning this. You can't let the bishop out. If you move your knight, you lose your a-pawn. And if you can move your knight in a way to manoeuvre it to f7, great. But the problem you've got is that this time it doesn't arrive with check. So if you played knight d8, black wouldn't just take the pawn. Black would get their bishop out. So you kind of want your knight... you kind of want it to arrive with check, basically, a little bit, as a sort of clue as to what you do next. I mean, you can play king f7, which is what you do, in fact. But the problem with king f7 is you now blocked the f7 square that you need to get to with the check. So black just plays king b7. And you say, okay, right, well, I'll come back to g6. And there's just no way to triangulate with the king. Knights don't triangulate, and you're dropping your pawn anyway. And you can't... I mean, if you move the knight, the bishop's out. And if you move the king off the defence of one of these 2 squares, the bishop's out. So you kind of need to pass the move to black somehow. How'd you do it? Well, you play the king f7, king b7, and then here's the beautiful finish. Okay, you play a8 equals queen check. Just giving up the pawn. Well done. And then king back to g6. Just clear the f7 square. And black will be like, right, well, it's all right. I know your trick. You're trying to get me to come back to b7 so that you can play knight d8 check and then knight f7 and my bishop's lost. But it's all right. I'll just move my king somewhere else. I won't put my king on b7. Good luck with that. It's brilliant, isn't it? Absolutely brilliant. The bishop can't move because it gets taken. The king has to move to b7. And then it's the bishop trapped trick. This time the black king, by the way, is a bit closer to the d3 pawn, so we just need to check that it's all right. And like most top studies, it's been also set up in such a way that it's just in time to, that particular aspect's just in time. So yeah, a8 equals queen, king takes a8, king g6, and the bishop is in trouble. I was going to say the bishop's well and truly forked, but it isn't so much, is it? I think we're going to have to go back to my favourite study of the three, which is the Reti one from 1922. Pretty good at studies, wasn't he, Reti? Sort of came up with some pretty good ones. There's at least 3 of his that I know that are just absolute top draw. And the variant of his most famous one, the king and pawn ending, which is also so. I now know of at least 4 endings, compositions by Reti that are just genius, absolute genius. 103 years ago, he put this one together. Let's just see it again. Knight d4 check, king c5, king h1. The bishop is well and truly